What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to take a look at this viral clip that's going around. It's got over 22 million views over on Twitter, and it's a section very early on in the game, and I'll let the clip speak for itself, but people have definitely had a heyday talking about said clip with quote tweets and replies, and I definitely agree with the people that are kind of bagging on the messaging of this clip, because I think there's a very clear idea of what this clip is trying to show, and I don't agree with it. I think a lot of other people don't agree with it. So let's watch this clip, and then we'll talk about it.
Oh no! Let me give some coffee.
Someone else take him.
Okay, so you see it. Now, the responses, I think, are extremely good, and I think are extremely valid. Number one, this is extremely early on in the game. Number two, this is part of a constant moving section. You are not supposed to stop in this section of the game. In fact, once you keep going, it cuts into a kind of a dynamic event that leads you to the next thing that happens. So you're literally supposed to move. Also, people have said, well, what's interesting about this clip is they don't show the difficulty, and people have said, well, if you play this on the master difficulty, so hard, or I think there's like 4 or 5 difficulties in the game, but as you get up there in difficulties, the stormtroopers actually will hit you in this section. So, her showing that you just, stand there, or hang there, right, and the stormtroopers miss, that's only the case if it's on easier difficulties. If you stay there and don't move on harder difficulties, you will be shot, and they'll actually hit you. Also, I guess you could look at the argument that they are stormtroopers, and in canon, they don't have great aim. They're supposed to miss a lot, but I guess a further thing, and it's part of a larger issue, right, is this kind of complaining about literally everything. Now, look, I am no stranger to complaining about things. I probably complain about things that other people would just kind of brush off. I've had experiences with that before. I complain about things my wife wouldn't, and vice versa. Like, it's the way things work. However, for something like this, I think the messaging is just so dumb that we have to get upset or kind of mock a scene in a game like this when, again, everything I just said. This is a scene you're supposed to be moving. It's very early on in the game. It's part of a dynamic event, let's say, right? So, like, it's literally in there for that reason. You're not supposed to stop. Now, I guess it's in your right. You're the one playing the game. It's in your right to stop, but you have to, I think, when you play a game, there's different levels to it. You can play it obviously how you want, and obviously games definitely give you the ability to play within parameters of what they want you to do. But also there are some things, right? If it's like a high octane sequence, or I think to like the Uncharted games, a lot of the high action Uncharted sequences, like, you're supposed to do it a certain way, or they know you're going to jump from this place to this place, and then something, there's going to be an explosion. You could turn around and go back, you'll die. You can do it. It kind of ruins the atmosphere. It ruins the action-y moment that they're trying to do, but I guess you're in your right to do, you know what I mean? So this is another example, I would say, of something like that, of just basically complaining to complain. Now, the good news is 22.5 million views or something like that. The quote tweets, the retweets, the replies, I think they're all in defense of the game and defense of the mission and, what you're supposed to be doing versus what is actually happening. It's kind of like a nothing burger. It's trying to make a big deal over this sequence when you could complain about other things. You could complain about the launch state. You can complain about the PC. And, I've said this before. I didn't have that many issues. I was playing on a PS5. You can still criticize. I don't think it's a perfect video game. I don't think it's a perfect Star Wars game. There's a few things in there I would change. To laser focus on this specific sequence, I think, is just extremely not smart. And again, I think it's maybe not only just this scene and this video on its own. This has kind of become a thing. This almost reminds me of, like, I don't remember what game it was, but it was a Xbox game. Where I think maybe was it Halo, when like you were shooting at a watermelon, right? There was that clip that was going around, and it doesn't explode. It doesn't have a realistic reaction to what you're doing, right? It reminds me of that, where it's like, you could complain about other things. You could focus on other things that I think are way more important than shooting a watermelon and then it not reacting the way that maybe it does in another game. You know what I mean? Those kind of things. Again, it's well within your right. I suppose, it's within your right to criticize those things. It's in our right as well. It's in somebody else's right to say that that's not something that I believe, needs to be laser focused on. So everybody's got a right with something, I suppose. So let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.